Welcome to the Simply Wild podcast. I'm your host, Sadie Jane, and we are coming back to the wild within us. And, you know, when I say that, I really mean the wild within us, regardless of whether I agree with your wild or not, because frankly, some of y'all are just actually unhinged, like to the point where it's scaring me. I was going to do a Q&A today. I think I might break it up to do a Q&A next week and record it today. And that has no relevance to anything that we're talking about today. But I say that because I have things we need to talk about. Like we need to discuss some certain things. And if also, I'm not sure you will, but there's a tile saw in my garage that you might hear. And I've been putting off recording because we're in the last stretches of the bathroom remodels and it's just been real loud. Lots of people in my home. So if you hear it, no, you didn't. Okay, no, you didn't. So let's talk about a couple things. There have been a few things that have happened in the last week or so that have been really powerful for me to contemplate many things in my life. And whether or not these two things are relevant to you right now or not, or whether they seem to be, I really do feel like they will be relevant once I kind of explain why they've been so powerful for me. The first one is going viral. And actually, I'm going to have like a little bit of a trigger warning on this because I will be talking about nudity and in the form of my kids seeing myself naked, which I guess I didn't realize that there were so many people who had so many different conflicting views. And so if that feels upsetting to you, or if you had something happen in your childhood where that feels very triggering, I witness you in that and you don't have to listen. This is my own story about my child seeing me in the tub or coming into me in the bathroom while I was in the tub. But we're not even going to start there yet. We're going to go even further. And actually, we can even just have the trigger warning of being like motherhood, parenting, or bullying on the internet, or really, really awful projections of things that awful things said to me, using words that maybe might trigger you in past situations that you had as a child. So that will be happening. And I hold space for you if you don't want to listen. But I do want to touch on the things that have been happening to me this week and, just on the concept of becoming viral in general and the things people put in their mouths. So it's really interesting. So a few of my reels or TikToks have gone viral. And before that, my very first experience with being viral was my little girl hairstyles on Pinterest. Now, Pinterest virality is much different than TikTok and reels because you just get a bunch of pins and it just feels exciting because it's just a bunch of traffic. And I don't think everybody was as ruthless and relentless as they are now. And maybe that's not true. Like this is back in the days of like what, 2010, 2012. And maybe they were just more ruthless and relentless, like behind the scenes, because they had like the GoMe internet and now they have Reddit and there's just like all these forums where people can talk shit privately. And obviously now they can talk crap publicly as well with a private secret Instagram name, or it's a bot. Like you don't actually even know who is real and who is not real. And I felt that so much, especially on this last reel. But before that, my very first reel that went viral or my very first TikTok that went viral was 1 years ago, like 2019, when Henry had let Dozer in the house and somehow the toilet broke. I was in the shower and the toilet broke and there was like water everywhere and he had sprayed like ketchup and mustard on Dozer's back. It was insane, hilarious. I posted it. People thought it was like fake. It was staged. They were saying all these things. For some reason, going viral on TikTok didn't feel as offensive because I have almost like, I think 60,000 followers on there, but it feels like a lot of them don't really know me. Like it's just judgments that I can just brush off my back, right? And then I went viral a few other times relating to my kids. Like I literally decorated Reagan's locker for the first year she was in junior high. And I like posted a cute video of it. I like recorded it and posted it. The comments I received, in fact, a lot of the times when you go viral, you just like either you turn off the comments if you can't handle it, or you just like let God take it. Like, let Jesus take the wheel and stop looking at the comments, because they come in so quickly that they literally will consume every single part of your life. So that one was really interesting because it was a lot of really upset high schoolers, a lot of really upset junior high and high schoolers, which there's conflicting views on whether or not junior high kids should have TikTok or not. But that's another podcast for another day. Anyway, they were all very upset because they were either upset that their mom didn't do this for them, or they were upset that I was in the school doing it for them. And how dare I do this without my daughter, or how dare I do it and not let my daughter decorate her locker. It was just really silly. And then there was a couple different viral TikToks around Baylor and his emotions. It was actually really powerful. And those were beautiful. And of course, there's bots on there too of weird things. And like I said, TikTok was easy to just like brush it off. Okay. So here I am on Instagram for many years. I've been on Instagram since like 2013, 2012, building my business actively on there since like 2015. And I've never had anything go viral on Reels. Like, there's been a few that have hit like 300K. I think maybe my biggest, maybe it was like 500K. And I create some really beautiful, powerful videos, and I have videographers, and I just like drop content in there. But the thing about being viral or going viral is you just never know what will drop. I mean, I have a sense when I drop something or when I post something, I do have a feeling, and it grows every time I post, like, oh, this is probably going to get good engagement. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I literally am completely dumbfounded with what people love and what people don't. And this particular viral thing that I posted, has it been a week now? I was taking a bath in my bathtub, and Baylor comes in. Baylor is my manifesting generator, and he is in and out everywhere always. He's just in and out and asking me questions and leaving, not even paying. He is so not aware of details that it's just not, he's just literally everywhere. Like, I can't escape the guy. If my door is shut, if I'm like, hey, I'm in the bath, please don't bother me, yes, he will totally remember that. But I think I must have gone in the bath and I didn't tell him I was in there, or I didn't inform him, or he had been at piano and I didn't like text him, hey, I'm in the bath, please don't come in. Like, or maybe I had closed the door, and Jeff had opened the door and then like kept the door open. I don't know. But backstory, my kids do see me nude. They do. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. I've always grown up that way with my kids. Now, did I grow up that way as a child? Absolutely not. So my mom married a man who, like, we've talked about this, I call him my father, but he's my stepfather. And I've never once seen him without his pajamas or clothing on. And they were always super, 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 super private. Like, I never, ever saw my mom naked. Did I? I'm trying to remember. No. Like, very, 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 very private. And because I came from like a mixed family, I was also very private, like always covering up, like even no tank tops. Like, skin was a big deal in my family. And I'd like run to my bathroom if I had just finished the shower, or I'd take my clothes in there. Like, it was just always like such a big deal. And when I became a mother and skin to skin my babies and showered with my babies, and it just was like very natural for me to continue to stay naked on occasion with my kids, whether it was that we were in Hawaii and we were all like showering ourselves off after a sandy day at the beach. Like, I'm not going to shower them from their sand and take them inside and get them ready and not do me as well. It was never a second glance. I never had a second glance at it. I never had a second thought. Now, I had some situations as a child that were really unfortunate with me and nanny's sons, and you can use your imagination. And I've had some situations in high school, and I had a situation where I was sexually assaulted just recently in like 2020. So I think that because of those situations and because I am in tune intuitively as a mother and as their mother and as me and as I feel what's comfortable with me and what's comfortable with my family, I can tune into that, right? So if I, for 1 second, ever felt like something was being sexualized or inappropriate or the lines were crossed, I would feel that as a mother. Because I'm telling you right now, mothers have more intuition than anyone on the planet. Fight me on this. Get mad at me on this. I don't actually care because I have felt it. I felt it. And so as I tune in with my kids and create a safe home with them and create a safe environment and allow myself to also honor that flow without forcing my kids to hold the heaviness of my past traumas. Because if I had chosen, this is only my experience, please remember that as you're listening to this. If I had chosen to say, these things happened to me, and remember, these assaults and molestations, yes, as a child, happened to me clothed. Like I came from a home, they were not one and the same. They didn't happen because I came from a home with my parents that walked around naked. My parents were fully clothed, and I was still in a situation that had actually nothing to do with my parents, not necessarily, where I was subjected to these situations. Because nakedness is not inherently sexual, and I will die on that rock. I will die on that hill. Okay, so we're talking about my trauma, my experience, and we're talking about me as a mother and what has shaped me to be the kind of mother I am. Nothing but intuition. I'm telling you this right now. Did I read a book, a manual on how to be a mother? And one of the chapters was, are you naked in front of your children or not? That's the golden question. I never read anything about that. What I did read is my intuition, the intuition of my kids, the intuition of how I felt, being so aligned with the integrity of me as a mother. And I will not apologize for knowing and feeling deep down that nudity is not inherently sexual. The audacity of these people in the comment section, and I do believe that many of them are bots. And I also believe that many of them just have their own opinion, and that's okay too. Like, I am not sitting here to try to convince you to believe something different than me. However, I am here on my podcast, my Simply Wild podcast, to maybe defend or even just allow myself to anchor in my truth of what it is that I believe. Am I always naked around my kids? No. Are there times when I feel like it's more appropriate than others? Obviously. Will I cover up if my kids are walking in and I'm showering and they want to ask me a question? Absolutely not. Do I have boundaries and is the door closed? Absolutely. Have I had to navigate that myself? Absolutely. In fact, here's a story about the door being closed. Are you ready for this? When I was growing up, my parents' door to their room was always closed. Always. There was a do not disturb sign on their door. I think it was really important for them to have that privacy because as a family of 14, they didn't have it. I really don't think that they felt like they had it. And because of the interesting dynamic between me and my stepfather, there was like a little bit of just a hurdle. Like, I didn't feel comfortable like my kids do to just like open the door. And I learned very quickly on as a young child to not knock on the door if there was a do not disturb sign on. Like, I learned very quickly on. I was like disciplined. I was disciplined if I did that, right? So that was their boundary. To just, if they were home, the door was closed, they were in the room. And sometimes I could knock if the do not disturb sign was off. And if the do not disturb sign was on, there was no knocking, right? So I become a mother. And this is actually not completely even in the same realm as nudity. We're going to get back to nudity. I just feel like I need to like share this little piece really quick about the door being closed, because the other thing that was being attacked with me on this post was boundaries. And isn't it funny that people like to attack other people's boundaries, or they like to assume that they know someone's boundaries based off of a 10-second video, right? But let me explain to you my boundaries, or just my evolution of boundaries, because am I the first to believe that I'm the best at boundaries or know all the boundaries? No, not at all. In fact, I'm actually not super great with boundaries with kids. I've gotten better at my boundaries with my kids, but it's been a huge evolution because of my upbringing. Door was closed, right? I didn't realize I was overcompensating for that so much as a mother until I actually hadn't even remembered that I grew up with like the door closed situation until I had just had Henry. We were living in the basement in my little home in Sugar House with one bathroom. It was like a 1,400 square foot home, and my door was open like it had been as I raised my children. And Baylor came in and said, "Can I lay with you? I had a nightmare." And he laid down with me. I've never told this story publicly, but he laid down with me, and immediately my heart started racing, and I remembered all the moments that the door was closed when I was growing up. Granted, I'm going to say too, this is a caveat to the story, that do not disturb sign door situation didn't happen until I was 8 because my mom was single. She's a single mom of 8 kids before then. So when she was single, I'd go and come and sleep in her room all the time because I like wake up with knee aches or growing pains or nightmares or whatever. And as an adult, I obviously understand their need for boundaries and how it's a little bit more tricky when there's a parent involved. And that obviously affected me in some way. And I didn't realize it until I had this conversation with Baylor. And the second I had that conversation, I had a remembering of the door being closed all the time as a child. And it was so crazy how my body immediately went into a panic attack. I've only had a few panic attacks in my life, but it was insane. I like had to sit up, go on the stairs. I couldn't breathe. I was crying hysterically. It was really interesting to remember that. So as I remembered that and began my healing process of like knowing that's okay, understanding where my parents were coming from, understanding their boundaries, that also opened up this idea of, oh, do I have boundaries with my kids? Or have I completely shifted the pendulum to so extreme, these boundaries that were so extreme growing up, to like literally no boundaries? And that came to fruition when we moved into this house. Now, I think my kids were so little that I didn't realize it when they were little. Because as toddlers and babies, they need, like, they will wake up in the middle of the night. They do have nightmares. Like, at least for me, I always felt like I really need to be available for them. And also, our homes were so small, and a lot of times they didn't have locks on the door. We were renting the house, we couldn't switch it. Like, it was all sorts of things, right? Now we live in this home, and I'm like trying to rest, or I'm on like a different part of my healing journey. I'm not on Adderall anymore. I'm like resting as a projector. I'm whatever it is. And I start to shut the door more, and my kids are just barging the door open. And whose fault is that? Mine. Because I realized how little boundaries I had with my own privacy. And of course, the door would be locked every time we had conjugals or had sex, Jeff and I, but figuratively speaking, my kids didn't understand the concept of the door is shut. It's your time to it's my private time. And quite frankly, as a young mother, I didn't have that boundary. And so now that my kids are getting older, my oldest is 13. Okay. So as we move through life as parents, we get to different pieces of our upbringing, of the kids' upbringing, and we get to say, okay, what do we do now? Okay, how do we shift? Because everything is always molding and changing. The only constant is change. As I've navigated my own boundaries with my kids, of course, there has been a change and shift in what I feel is appropriate for my boundaries with the door. And also, as my kids get older, my boundaries with my nudity. And if I'm walking around naked all the time, am I? No. But people assumed that because my son, so this was the real. That was a whole long tangent, but it was needed to be said. The real was I was in the bathtub and Baylor comes barging in. Now, nobody sees this part of the reel, right? Because I just recorded it when he started playing, but he was like, "Mom, I have to show you this song I learned on the cello." Now, Baylor's in orchestra. He's also in piano and he's also in band. Like, he's my manifesting generator. Like I said, he's doing a million things at once. And he was like, "Well, actually, this is what happened." He said, "Mom, I have to show you something." That's all he said. And when Baylor says, "I have to show you something," most of the time it lasts for 10 seconds. So I can just like, okay. And, I cover my breasts if I need to, or I'm whatever it is, like whatever. I am allowed as a mother to gauge what feels appropriate and what doesn't in my own home, just like you are, right? So he comes in and this boy brings his whole ass cello into the bathroom. What am I going to say at that point? No, leave. Like, it was the cutest, sweetest moment for him to feel safe enough to show me, and so excited for him to show me this experience, right? This like 2-second song, literally, like there was like 2 notes. And he grabs the chair and he pulls up his sheet music and plays. And I just happened to open my phone to press play because I thought it was so cute. And then I asked him if it was okay for me to post it on stories. And he said yes, knowing that it didn't feel weird, because there was nothing weird, because he didn't assume anything was weird, because he doesn't equate seeing his mother naked to sexuality, because that's what we've done in our home. Now, do I think that you have to have nudity in your home to make it so that nudity is normal? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. You can look at the studies, you can read the psychology articles, like you can ask the sex therapists all you want. And I will say that I do think that cultures that are around nudity more, or normalize flesh being flesh, have less, this is actually a study, genuinely, have less of a problem with addictions with pornography, have less of a problem with addictions of abuse, of molestation, of rape, of sexualizing skin. So as I navigate this as a mother, I've been very mindful, and I am nude in front of my kids sometimes. And I absolutely think it's okay. And I know there are literally millions and millions and billions of people on the earth that do the same thing. There are communities and villages that are nude all the time around their kids. I mean, I don't know if I need to go into the fact that of how backwards it is that I breastfed my children and that Jeff gets to walk around shirtless. I mean, there's just so many different angles to this. And none of this I ever want to say to like convince you guys to go against the grain of your own belief, because I do believe, based off of your upbringing, based off of your traumas, based off of your experiences, based off of where you are with your life, based off of your relationship with your kids, based off of your kids. If I felt my kids were uncomfortable with me, don't you think I would cover up? Don't you think I would know that if I was aware enough as a mother? And just because they see me naked in the bathtub doesn't mean I'm walking around naked, even if I was. And if I am, maybe I'm not. There's no reason why I should have to give the whole synopsis of what I believe or what happens in my home based off of what I believe in terms of nudity. However, I bring all this up in this podcast because there's something really powerful to learn when something like that goes viral and you are attacked personally based off of something that's very personal, very sacred, very special, and very unique. And it could be heavily emotionally triggering, especially from coming from where you were. Like, I found myself getting really triggered by people calling me a predator, by people calling me a groomer, because I've been in those situations before, because they're assuming that I don't know what that's like, because they're assuming that I'm doing that to my children, right? But here's the real beautiful piece of this. Well, let me go back to this groomer predator situation, because once it started getting viral, also I should mention, this is sounding so dramatic, but also I should mention that there are thousands of comments on there that are like, bro, I still see my mom naked. Bro, I still go and sit in the when she's on the toilet and talk to her about my life. And also, it's so funny that like there's so many assumptions. Like, who knows if I covered up when he came in? Who knows if I covered my chest? Who knows what I did in that situation, right? But regardless, it's interesting, as I was looking at some of the comments, and I haven't been able to keep up on all of them because I told myself I wasn't going to, because their assumptions are their assumptions. I did put on words. You can like do specific words that the comments get hidden or banned. And I use the word pedophile and groomer because those are disgusting allegations, and I refuse to let them in my space and on my page. Even if they're not real, like this concept of, well, you put it on the internet, you deserve to get all the backlash. You put yourself on the internet, you deserve. Okay, maybe that's your opinion, but my opinion is that there is a place on the internet for everybody. And I'm not coming into your internet space and accusing you of your own things. And if you accuse me for protecting my side of the internet and my community for the vibration and frequency of allowing whatever it is in, that is on you. And I do not care if I'm judged that way. I refuse to allow people to use those specific words on my Instagram page, right? So that's what I did as far as blocking them. But what was interesting is when I was looking at the comments on some of them, because some of them are wildly inappropriate. And I'll get to why I didn't delete it, the reel in general. But when I was looking at some of them and blocking them, it was so wild. What the feeling that I felt in my body when I was looking at their profiles? Most of them, all of them, had no followers, no pictures. Or maybe they had some followers, but no pictures. Their profile picture was creepy, like a creepy cartoon or weird, or a disfigured picture. Like genuinely, it felt like these were entities. These were dark energies. These were weird frequencies that because there was a lot of attention on something, they decided to bring their attention to that thing to then continue the energy. Energy speaks so loudly. And this isn't just on one viral post. This is on literally everything. Energy catches like wildfire. If somebody's talking about something, you know it's going to, and it's exciting and it's dramatic, you know it's going to keep going. Like the royal family right now, like where is Kate, right? Like everyone is just like, it's just wildfire and it just grows and grows. And so do I know if these people are real or not? Do I know if they're bots or not? Do I know if they're genuine, like just entities that have established themselves in AI? Are they aliens? Are they pieces of Satan? What I do know is the energy was real that I felt when I went onto their page, and that does not lie. And whatever it is, whatever kind of projection it is, whatever kind of reflection it is, I was so disgusted that there were pages like that with pictures like that, just like creepy pictures. And I was like, I am not allowing that on my page. So I would, block and delete. And here's why I didn't delete the post, because there's nothing wrong with the post. And here's what happens when you allow these dark energies, when you allow other people's opinions to dim your light, to shut you up, to shut the door, you allow them to take away your own integrity, your own freedom, your own sovereignty, your own accountability. And I refuse. I don't care if people are calling me. Now, I do care if it's on my page, so I will delete it. It's been a wild ride because now it almost has like 4 to 5 million views. And that feels exhausting. That's why I've put like some parameters around it as far as the words go. That I will protect. That I will delete. I have that right. And I also have the right to keep up something that I don't feel is inappropriate. And I refuse to allow people to call me these awful names, to assume all these awful things about me, to assume all these things, to tell me that they're going to call CPS. I will come, let them come, and I will give them tea. And we will discuss just how corrupt this world is. I've called CPS before. As a labor and delivery nurse, I had to call CPS because I had to take care of patients who neglected their children and their babies. So call them because my son is comfortable with seeing my breasts. Like, are you kidding me? So I refuse to take down a reel that I find is beautiful and wholesome and exciting, not even exciting, and funny. Like it was literally just funny. Like the caption on it was like, when they get older, you still can't run from them. They know where you are, or something like that. And it was just funny. Like who freaking brings a whole ass cello and sits in the bathroom and like just starts playing, right? It was just hilarious. Never once was he looking at my breasts because we've normalized that bodies are bodies. And so if I delete that reel, which by the way, I got permission to post because Baylor was like so proud of it and he thought it was funny. If I deleted that reel, that means they won. That energy wins. The dark energy wins and it just feeds. It is a virus. It is a virus and it just feeds on people trying to live their own truths because whether or not, of course, it was more emotionally It was way more emotionally profound for me because it is a heightened conversation for me. Like maybe somebody, I know that there's a lot of people, and especially like the holistic spiritual wellness culture, a lot of women who maybe post things like that online and they get shit and maybe it doesn't bother them as much because they've just been living in that space for so long. It definitely triggered me seeing those comments because I've been on the other side of that. Because I've worked really hard because I was literally told many times in my life, especially growing up, that my nudity was sexualized, that by showing my shoulder, I was being sexualized. I've been told recently that the skin I show online is sexualizing myself and making it seem like I'm cheating on my husband in the way that I show my skin. These are real things that people are telling me, okay? So as I allow myself in the trigger to tell myself, is this real or not? What is my truth? What do I believe? Am I a good mother? Am I hurting my children by showing them skin or by them happening to just step into my room? Am I being true to my integrity? Am I being true to me as a person? And each time something negative comes up, or each time a comment comes up, or each time a troll comes through, or each time one of these weird bot entities comes through, all they're wanting to do is dim this unique light that you've worked so hard to create. All they're wanting to do is dim this uniqueness that you have worked so hard to carve out of the world of normalcy, the world of labels, the world of right and wrong, the world of black and white, the world of do this and not that. And so you sit here and you're like, you know what? I am finding my truth. I am finding who I am. And this is what I believe in. I'm going to be brave and share a little bit of that belief. I'm going to be brave and share a little bit about my life, even though I know it might offend some people or some people might feel like that's a little weird. Guess what? People will. And they know they harvest on that vulnerability. That virus harvests on your vulnerability, on your authenticity, because just as much as you're becoming more and more authentic and your light is coming more and more bright, so too more and more people will see it. And the people that aren't aligned with their shadows, the people that aren't authentically themselves, the people that aren't living in their integrity, it will trigger the hell out of them. And so they're going to attack you. And this is your opportunity to say, am I living in integrity? Behind closed doors, how am I existing? And if you can sleep well at night, closing your eyes, knowing that you are whatever it is that they're attacking, that you are not that. Or maybe there's a piece where you're like, yeah, I can have accountability. I don't really have great boundaries, but also maybe they're my boundaries and maybe they're my family boundaries and maybe they're perfect for my family. And I don't owe you an explanation of my boundaries lists for me and my kids, regardless of whatever it is being attacked. I am so grateful for every time I've had a trigger. Now, truthfully, if we're talking about this concept of trolls and having people say mean things to you on the internet, I don't get a lot of it. I really don't get a lot of it. I feel very, very protected. And I live in really, really deep accountability and integrity. And so I think that that's another reason. And this just comes with going viral. If you go viral on anything, people are just crazy and they just feel like there's a common ground to just talk shit, whether or not it's for or against. There are a lot of fights happening in my comment section about sexualizing nudity, and I just stepped away. I'm just like, peace out, moonwalk away. There is a very fine line between protecting your peace and allowing yourself to be seen in your own way and grow. And I absolutely honor the ebb and flow of that. Not even once, especially in my containers, my Sacred Rebels containers, where am I ever like, share everything, put everything out there, because the world doesn't deserve it. Never once did I think that by posting that reel, would I have to explain to the world my relationship with nudity, my relationship with my children, my relationship with boundaries, what's happening on the inside of my home? And I'm not going to. And the reason for this podcast isn't to explain my point of view as much as it is to explain how I handled the trigger and how actually I'm grateful for that experience because I have been able to anchor into my truth. I've been able to stand up for myself. I've been able to allow people to come at me with their allegations and not do anything about it. The interesting thing about going viral or getting hate, or I think this actually goes along the lines of being quote unquote canceled, is nothing lasts forever. So if you can ride the storm and allow yourself to learn the lessons that are being taught to you from whatever it is that's coming at you, it can be a really powerful lesson. You're going to go through initiations if you post things online that you wouldn't if you didn't. And I actually love the initiations because they teach me more and more every single time to really sink my roots deeper into my own truth. Is this true or is it not? The allegations that were put on me through this reel were really intense. And it was a really interesting reflection on kind of where the world is right now. And it was really sad to see the common thread of who didn't think it was sexual versus who did, versus so many people in my comments were like, wow, there's too many people are watching porn. Too many people are sexualizing a naked body. And I agree. I totally agree. Not to like get all preachy about my relationship with pornography, which is really interesting because I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I guess here we are. I'm pretty open to sexual experiences if you're in a divine union relationship and there's consensus for both of you and you're keeping your sexual energy within the bounds of that, because loose sexual energy is a mess, a disaster, with lessons in between. But Jeff and I both agree pornography is just not something that we bring into our marriage, at least not right now. And it has never been, because for me, when I tune into the energy and the frequency of it, it's very loose. It's very loose energy. Of course, I think that there is ethical porn. And if you watch porn in your marriage, please, like, I support whatever you want to do inside your bedroom. But I do think it's really interesting to see these young boys coming on this reel talking about how disgusting it is that my son happens to sometimes see me naked, because the assumption that is going on in the reel in the comments is that they think that because of either a really shitty childhood or because of the pornography addiction that is happening within them. And it's sad. It's just sad. A lot of these people also are people that don't have kids, that don't know their own experience. And I mean, I could easily be the one to judge. Like, if I didn't have kids and I was watching that, maybe I would think that it was disgusting as well, because of how I was raised, because of my own experiences, because of my own traumas. And at the same time, honoring everybody's projections and everybody's reflections. And is it a projection or is it a reflection, right? What is it? And what am I going to allow myself to get out of it? Going viral can be such a gift. It is a massive initiation and it is a massive energy to hold, but it's been really powerful to see how I've been able to integrate it. And, even if you don't ever go viral, even if you're not wanting to go viral, even if you don't post things on the internet, this is even relevant to you if you walk in the grocery store and you see something that you don't like and you stand up for yourself, or if you're in a church meeting, or if you're a family gathering, and literally anytime you stand up for your own truth, or you show your own truth, or you show that you live your life in your own way, you are going to get judgment. And what are you going to do about it? Are you going to allow the judgments of others to then shrink your light, to then dim your light, to then make it so that you have to live for them? Make it so you live a complacent, easy, chill life that isn't ruffling any feathers, just so that you can hide, just so you don't have to have contention, just so you don't have to have confrontation? Or are you going to allow yourself, with integrity and accountability to believe in your own ways of living, to believe in your own ways of nurturing and parenting and motherhood, especially if they're conflicting with other people's views. That is the point of me sharing this on the podcast today. I'm not even going to get into the other thing because it's already been 45 minutes. I'll make it another. I wanted to talk about goals, but we'll make another podcast because, like I said, my point in sharing all this isn't to convince you that nudity is something that you need to do in your family. Although I do hope and pray that if you do believe nudity is inherently sexual, that you pray about it and meditate on it and think about that belief, because I genuinely hope that we can get into a world, that we can honor a world where skin doesn't have to be sexualized. There's a whole nother piece to this for me as a medical professional. I've seen hundreds of naked bodies, men and women, because of my nursing career. And so I think that it's another easy way, like intention is everything. Do we not understand that yet? Do we genuinely not understand that yet? Can we really not live in a world where we allow ourselves to understand that every single thing has intention? This is why I hate definites so bad. This is what I talked about a couple podcasts ago. But when you tell me something is so definite that plant medicine is all wrong or nudity is all wrong, especially around your children, you are putting yourself in such a small box. You are demonizing something so sacred and something so powerful, and literally taking away so many life lessons that could be learned while we're on this earth, which is the whole point, mind you, because you are closing your mind to so many possibilities because you're so afraid of what? Of being wrong, of understanding consequences, of not knowing consequences. I genuinely don't know if the consequence is going to be right or wrong. I don't know if my kids will grow up and something will be different with their psyche. I genuinely don't know. Statistics can show so many things, but will my kids be more confident in their bodies? Will my kids be more confident in not shame and not guilt and not sexualize people's nude bodies? I sure hope so. All I know now is that Reagan is extremely confident in her own body, and she allows herself to be private in that, right? And I know now that right now my kids don't sexualize nudity. Do I know that that's going to happen? No, I don't. But am I willing to raise them in a way where I'm trying to control that? Do you get what I'm saying? If I am so worried that showing skin will make it so they sexualize skin, so I don't show my skin ever, that is holding them back from an opportunity to understand the opposite. Does this make sense? So just because my experience was that I didn't see skin growing up. And so guess what happened to me? I got over curious. Or just like, what's going on? Or I was just like so worried, like, wait, why is this and why is that, right? Do I feel like I've gone completely 180? No, because I'm not naked around all my kids all the time. I'm not. Do they see me naked sometimes? Yes. Do I know for certain that it won't have a negative impact? No, but guess what? I don't also know that it's for certain that being completely clothed will not have a negative impact. The point of this is we don't know. And the more we try to control and the more we try to fight our intuition on how to raise our kids, the more it will just mess us up already. It's hard enough to be a mother. It's hard enough to be a parent. If we don't listen to our inklings, to our intuition that says, it's okay. You know your integrity. It's okay. If we stop listening to that, we have nothing. We have nothing. No amount of statistics, no amount of articles, no amount of crystal balls can tell you whether or not you're screwing up your kids. The only thing you can do is, with the deepest integrity, do the best you can. And my best is knowing that if my kids see me naked once in a while, I know it's not wrong because I am teaching my kids that my skin is not sexual, that their skin is not inherently sexual, that their skin is a vessel and an organ and a cosmic meat suit that helps them live their life, feel their emotions, experience this world. And depending on their intention, when they get older, depending on their relations, then they can use these incredibly powerful meat suits to have sexual relations. Imagine a world where my daughter or my sons or whoever can express themselves in their flesh without having to completely cover up and be so confident in knowing that they're not sending a sexual message, and instead they're just allowing themselves to feel their bodies, to flow in their bodies, to express their bodies. I'm specifically talking about what if they go to a festival one day or a dance one day, or they just want to express themselves without a lot of clothes on. And they're not asking for anything other than to be expressive in their bodies, like a bikini, like surfing. It doesn't even have to be at a festival. Do you understand what I'm saying here? That is what's happening in my home, is I'm allowing them to have an opportunity to think about skin differently. And I'm not doing it by prancing around. I'm doing it by just living my normal life. And if that offends people, they can use their trigger to also look inside and see if they're living in integrity with their truth. And I hope that you take this time today to look inside yourself in a very, very triggering topic and ask yourself, what's your truth? What do you believe? What do you think is appropriate for your family? And honor it and love it and live it. Because at the end of the day, the only people that matter are the people that are in your own home and God. So do something wild for yourself and trust your own integrity. Love you so much. You are never too much and always enough. Never forget the power within you.